And good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And thank you so much for joining us this morning, Minnesota Fats, and reposting the stream. So let's get into our first video for our Kids Corner section to inspire our young listeners for today.
For 6-year-old Leora, a small act of kindness would show her that giving can make you feel richer than gold. One morning, Leora and her mom walked to the park. She was thinking about which cake to buy. But then she saw something that made her stop. She saw an old man with worn shoes and tired eyes. People passed by, but he sat quietly, hoping for someone to notice. Leora's fingers held the coin tight. She thought of cake, then thought of the man's empty cup. Her heart made the choice before her mind did. One afternoon, they sat together on the bench. He told her stories of his younger days, and Leora forgot all about cake. She had found something sweeter. That night, Leora told her mom, helping him felt better than eating cake. Her mom smiled. That's because kindness feeds the heart. Leora learned, riches aren't only in what we keep, they grow when we give. And helping others, that's the sweetest treasure of all.
Yes. And I would also put that with a disclaimer. I don't want children just sitting with any random older person. Okay. This is a cartoon, right? And the moral of the story is to notice, if someone, may be sad or down and really engage with them. And that's, something that we need to remember, especially going into the holidays, right? Because people out there don't have families they can just, go and spend time with and talk to. And a lot of people do get very sad around this time of year and they call them the holiday blues, right? I actually saw a video and a security guard, they were upset because the Christmas tree was up. I was like, I can't believe they did this. It's like, well, ma'am, not everybody feels the way you do. But the bigger question is, why are you so sad? And maybe nobody really asked her the question. But maybe no one's really taken the time to just reach out and say, hey, did something happen over the holidays that you don't want to celebrate? Is there something going on right now that maybe you need to talk about? And sometimes it's just being there to listen. You don't necessarily have to say anything, just listen. And that's something that I want to encourage us to do, you know, between now, which tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and definitely to the beginning of the year, to December 31st. We really need to take the time out to, you know, not only be thankful, but really reach out to those who might not be in a good headspace. I'll just say that. And with that, let's go on ahead and read our mantra for how to honor God with our body. So, God, please protect our mind, guard our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, protect my ears. Help me to listen for your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please protect my mouth and help me to speak life. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, protect my hands and help me to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, protect my reproductive organs. Help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet and help me to walk in your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And so I just want to make sure that we are, inspired by that this morning. And Patty Cakes is Grand Rising founder. Grand Rising to you too. And with that, I want to get into a scripture that I came across because, yes, today is Women in Wellness Wednesday. And as I was having my quiet time this morning, I was like, wow, this is very powerful. So I wanted to share it with you guys. It's Proverbs 28:16. And it says a tyrannical ruler practices extortion, right? But one who hates ill gotten gain will enjoy a long reign. And this is something that we need to hold all of our political leaders to, right? When they practice extortion, right? We need to kind of look at who's practicing that, right? If somebody is, but we also need to look at the ones who hate ill gotten gain. And a lot of times, we don't see those individuals that are serving in office because they're not getting the clicks and the likes. Nobody's putting a camera in front of their face. The ones who hate ill-gotten gain, but they're still doing their work in the background. I actually got to meet a representative like that. I can't remember his name, top of mind, but he was a House representative for Georgia, and he's also a medical doctor, and he never took the blood money, I call it, or bribes or got involved in any of that stuff. He went into Congress and he came out pretty much with his same net worth, right? He didn't do the insider trading. He didn't fall for any of the schemes. He did the best job that he could representing Georgia and got some, pretty good legislation done. Like I said, I'm gonna have to find his name, but that, made an impression on me that he was one of the good ones. And he said, yeah, it's wild there. There's a lot of lying, there's a lot of cutting deals. He says, for the most part, I couldn't wait to leave once I got there. And that's sad. And that lets us know how, destructive people are being within our federal government and how we need to send good people there to weed out those that shouldn't be there. And that is up to us. We still have our votes and we need to make sure our votes count, right? We need to work for our election boards to ensure, okay, that voting is happening properly in each and every election that we have. So, again, let's keep that top of thankful mind. It's Women in Wellness Wednesday, and it is open mic. So, if anybody would like a mic to come up and speak, I will be opening that up at 8 a.m. So, at the top of the 8 a.m. hour, I will start taking individuals that want to join me here. If you do not have a link and you would like to be on the show, just email me at unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com or send me a message on X. Just let me know in the comments, that you've sent me a request. So I will definitely send you the link now. Time to get into the news. So I've been hearing a lot about people um, how should I say it? It's not so much a talking point, but they're bringing back up the conversation of the Smith Month Modernization Act, right? And the Smith Month Modernization Act is where, well, we'll just get into the Smith Month Act. The Smith Month Act basically protected the general public here in the United States against being propagandized. Plain and simple. Well, the Modernization Act allows the propaganda. And here we are, right? People talk about, well, there's disinformation. You never heard about disinformation in the 1950s. You know why? Because they couldn't propagandize the general public. But now they can. And so now people don't really know what to believe. And so we really have to get back to studying, right? Verifying, as they call it, fact checking, right? But really fact checking. If somebody quotes something from a congressional bill, we can go to congress.gov and find it. Because if they didn't do it, then we need to hold that person accountable, right? Don't lie to us. And Nicole Foster says hi. And Annalise says she's hot. Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment. But I wanted to play this video from Barack Obama. And this is where he was talking about disinformation, but just really hear what he has to say about it and how it really can affect the mindset of the general public.
A country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
Yeah. And that is really what's going on. Because it's like, yeah, once you get people's trust eroded, game's won. Because people will be so numb, they won't know what to believe. And they'll believe anything. That's the bad part. And that's where we have to be diligent, and we cannot give up fighting for truthful information. And Uncle Coldwater, thank you so much for joining us this morning and reposting the stream. And with that, I came across a video from AOC. I might have to play it like a couple of times because I was in disbelief when I heard it. I was like, she didn't say that. Yes, she did. She said that. So here we go.
My concern is that the lesson that they're learning is that Democrats are weak, and that next time we just need to hurt working people and working Americans more to get them to fold. And
I won't play it again.
This administration, my concern is that the lesson that they're learning is that Democrats are weak, and that next time we just need to hurt working people and working Americans more to get them to fold. And
Okay, so her stance is to get Republicans to fold. They need to hurt Americans and working people more. So now they're literally using the American people as pawns. Like we always knew we were pawns. Just saying. But to hear you say it, like people are nothing, like they are worthless, like they're useful for you to play this game with Republicans, as if that's what you're supposed to be doing. No, you're supposed to be representing, you're supposed to be passing forth legislation that actually enriches our lives, not yours. But this is that mindset up there, that I'm just going to go against you for the sake of going against you, no matter who it hurts, no matter who gets damaged. She is the result of what Barack Obama just said. That's why I played his video first. Like I said, you wouldn't believe some of these things unless you really heard them. Just saying. Just saying. Now, I'm going to get into this next piece, this next video. This one. This one's interesting.
This is really bizarre. Over the weekend, X rolled out a new feature where you can click on an account and discover a little bit more information about them. The key critical piece of information is where the account is located. And so they roll out this new feature. But one thing people are quick to figure out is that the Department of Homeland Security, it turned out it was based in Israel. People were quick to screen record this and take screenshots of this. Some of those screen records and some of the screenshots have been proven to be fake. They were modified, they were doctored. However, X and Grok confirmed that, yes, there are some real screenshots and videos showing that Department of Homeland Security had at one point shown that it was an account based in Israel. But they're saying it was a glitch. Oh, a glitch that just so happened to show Israel as the country? Out of all of the countries in the world, not Madagascar, not Brazil, not Thailand, now Israel. It showed Israel, the country that actually is, most of us can see, running our foreign policy in much of our government. Homeland Security denied this and said, I can't believe we have to say this, but this account has only ever been run and operated from the United States. Screenshots are easy to forge. Videos are easy to manipulate. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It started going viral. Millions of people saw this. And then suddenly what X did was they disabled the feature entirely. And they didn't say why. I wonder why. Just to corroborate this, we went to the Facebook account of the Department of Homeland Security. This is the page transparency for the Department of Homeland Security Facebook account, not X. And if you go down to the bottom where it says the location, it says United States, India, and Malaysia. It's showing right there, the Facebook page is run out of different countries. Clearly the US, the America First administration, has outsourced its social media to India and Malaysia for its Facebook account. So what makes us believe you didn't outsource your Twitter account to Israel, the country that you're protecting at all costs, the country that you're aiding and abetting in a genocide, and now you're all telling us that we're all a bunch of gullible idiots online? Oh, it was a glitch. You know what? It's actually kind of believable that you've allowed them to run our Department of Homeland Security social media account, and probably actually the Department of Homeland Security itself. Not a far stretch, considering everything that we've seen.
Okay. Right. And Uncle Coordinator says, what's crazy about what she just said is that the Democratic supporters won't even catch what she just said. I know. Because they'll be so caught up in, you need to fight for us. We'll fight at all costs, even if it costs us our lives. It's like, what? Huh? Are you serious right now? This person does not have your best interest. They do not care about you. They do not care. And they're okay saying it, the quiet part out loud. It was that part. So with that, and thank you, big ups to Kim Iverson for kind of pointing this out. So I went to X and I was like, I wonder if it still shows in Israel. It doesn't anymore, right? It actually shows, let me make it a little bit bigger. Let's see, get 175. It says that DHS, Homeland Security, is located in the United States. But now you notice this little badge. This little badge wasn't here before, because actually over the weekend I heard about it and I did screenshot myself. I went to a couple of accounts. I was like, wow. A lot of them were not based in the United States. Some were based in Turkey. Some were based in just India and other parts of the world. I was like, wow, okay. Because I always think, people use VPN for this, and maybe that's where it pings the VPN. But no, this is what I'm going to show you as the difference. It actually does ping wherever it's from. But notice how with DHS, this is all you're seeing. Got verified where the account's based when they join. Okay. But if you click on this little badge, you get this error. It's not an error, but you get this that pops up. It says country or region may not be accurate. One of our partners has just indicated that this account may have used a proxy, such as a VPN, which may change the country or region that is displayed on their profile. Because sometimes when you use VPN, you're using a VPN from wherever it's located, not from where you're located. Okay, so it can show up from anywhere. You could be in the United States, but your VPN is in Turkey, for example. We'll just say that. And so that's what's going to show up on your profile when you log in. If you're logging in using the VPN, it's not going to show United States. So this data may not be accurate. Huh? Okay, so some internet providers may use proxies automatically without action by the user, just like what I said. So I use, what is that? It's not Cox Communications. Gosh, I can't think of the name. Wow, I can't think of the name of my service provider right now, but I'll think of it momentarily. But anyway, so your internet service provider, right? So you might be using them, but if their proxy, if they are based out of, let's say, the UK, even though I'm here in the United States, if that's where they're based out of, that's what it's going to show. But it's like I said, it's very interesting only because I thought, and this is my opinion, I thought it was by the IP address. So where doesn't matter what internet service you use, even if you use VPN, it's the IP address that shows, and wherever you are at on the planet, it will pinpoint to exactly where you are. So if you're in the United States, in Texas, in Austin, Texas, it's going to pinpoint you to your exact location. That's the beauty of an IP address. Okay. Yeah. But here you see it. They're like, internet provider might use a proxy. The dance. And this is how I know this is kind of fraudulent, allegedly. Because here's my account. Okay, this is me, right? Date I joined. And it says my account is based in the US. But you know what you also see? You see when I was verified, ID verified, my any name changes that I did, but where I connected from. There shows no connection for DHS. No connection shown. So who's running the DHS Twitter space? Just saying. I guess we're gonna have to go back and check it a little bit later today. But see, when I click, I don't have a badge. I just have like this little information button. It says the country or region that an account is based, that an account is based can be impacted by recent travel or temporary relocation. So let's say if I was traveling to Paris, so to speak. Yes, I'm here in the US, but if I'm traveling to Paris, obviously the location that I connect to or connect with is going to show Paris. It's not going to show the United States. Okay. So this data may not be accurate and can change periodically. So that's what they're doing. They're kind of loosely giving people a pass, right? So if somebody goes back and says, hey, well, this account said this person was in Turkey or this person was in India and this person was in Asia, so on and so forth, they can now say, oh, well, stop lying. Stop that. And here's another thing I'm going to show. Let's go to Mr. Musk's account, Mr. Elon. Okay. He joined in 2009. His account's based in the United States. It's not based in Africa. And he's from South Africa. But I'm like, really, dude? He's such a troll. It's verified since 3000 BCE. Really, bro? You're a mess. But this says he's connected via the United States App Store. What's that? Because mine is connected via United States Android app. You're connected through the App Store. So I guess because he is like the owner of all things, right? That shows up on his profile. So now he's got this little badge thing. I don't have a little badge thing. And his says what DHS is saying. One of our partners has indicated that this account may have used a proxy, such as a VPN, which may change the country or region that is displayed on their profile. This data may not be accurate. Some internet providers may use proxies automatically without action by the user. Okay. Now I could see Elon doing that because obviously being the holder of all things, X, if he's traveling, let's just say he did go to South Africa, it might show South Africa if that's where he's physically located. But right now he's physically located in the United States. I'm just saying, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. People know that people were lying about who they are, where they're from, exploiting the racial divide on this app. And I know now you're trying to dial it back and fix it and make excuses, but you can't. It is what it is. But what my concern is, see how you see all of this lower beyond verified, where it says connected. That's my concern with DHS. Where is this connecting from? who's actually running your social media. And we demand to know because, see, we pay for this. These are our tax dollars. By the way, stop. It's weird how they play that game. It's like, oh, your tax dollars are so important. And then they want to turn around and be like, well, you can't really tell us what to do in the government. Yes, we can. And yes, we will. You need some explaining to do, Miss Known, Miss, Secretary of DHS. You better figure this out. You better make a statement. We better know exactly who's running this social media. Really? And if it's run through Israel, why? Why isn't it running in the United States? She checks the Facebook account. United States, Malaysia, and India come up. And Malaysia and India come up because they have virtual assistants that you can hire on the cheap to run your social media. Why? If we are so bent America first, like she said, why aren't you hiring people in the United States to run your social media? I can't. So you're actually giving people information outside of this country that's sensitive to post to us, United States of. You see where I'm going with this? I mean, come on now. Come on. And Sincerely Lawless, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She says, good morning, founder, and good morning to you too. So this was just something I came across and I had to bring it up because I was like, really? Is this what we're doing? Is this what it's come to now? My goodness. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and come back and get into some more news on this Women in Wellness Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so I remembered the name of my internet service provider, and it's Spectrum. And they actually have some cool bundling packages. You can do your cell phone, or you can do things a la carte. You can bundle it. It's pretty convenient, like Xfinity, or like I said earlier, Cox Communications. There's a Dish Network. So we have all of these different providers that can also provide the internet. But again, just saying, your IP address is kind of gold. It kind of rules the roost. So this whole VPN thing, I'm like, who's always getting on VPN to come on X? Now, there are people that do that so they can maintain their privacy. And with those that do, right, wherever the VPN is located, that's what it's going to be attached to. That's what it's going to show. So it will show, like, if I had a VPN that was attached to Paris, right? Even though I'm in the United States, it's going to show Paris, even though I'm not there or located there. And that's why some people like using VPN, because they can keep their location autonomous. But I thought, X was all about transparency. Mr. Musk, what are we doing? Okay, and moving on. Uncle Coolwater says, good morning, founder. Hope you and your family have an amazing family gathering day tomorrow. Oh, thank you so much. And back at you. Hope you guys do as well. Yes, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. It got here so fast. But we're going to get into a little bit more of this news about the Somali community. This was a video I wanted to play yesterday, but there were so many other videos and so much other news I need to get into. But I'm glad I waited till today, because there's some other things that I found out that I wanted to bring up alongside of it. So let's get into it.
Minnesota were just caught for committing their largest welfare fraud scheme yet. This fraud is so massive, Donald Trump is being forced to step in and address it. Not only did they steal it in the most egregious way possible, but it was uncovered that they were using the stolen taxpayer money to fund an Islamic terrorist group back in Somalia. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to stick around for this. But let's start by hearing from the ringleader in all of this, sitting United States Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Waan ahay gabar Mareykanka laga doortay oo Congress-ka Mareykanka ku jirto. Laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar waddankeedii laga kaxeeyay wili xiise u qabto in maalin waddankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto. Marka alxamdulillah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadda shaqo badan inaan wada qabanaa hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo.
I don't think it's a coincidence that a United States Congresswoman frequently and openly admits she does not view herself as an American, but a Somalian. She's furious and resentful that she was brought here. She misses it. She loves it. She wants to move back there again. She wants to raise her children and grandchildren there. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done first to make it more stable and prosperous. It is connected to every major Somali fraud ring that is robbing the Minnesota and federal taxpayer. We willingly allowed an entire diaspora of people whose culture is predicated on corruption, violence, and piracy to come settle in the United States. And now the very first generation of kids they have here who are US citizens are engaging in the same behavior that made Somalia unlivable. They're the most welfare-dependent immigrant group in the United States. They were already caught stealing $300 million in COVID relief funding that was meant for hungry children with the help of a self-hating white liberal lady. But take a look at their latest scheme, the largest one yet. This clip's a little long, but by the end of it, your jaw is going to be on the floor.
A new, stunning report from the City Journal showing a massive fraud scheme in Minnesota. You have to hear about this. It involves false autism claims, the Somali community, and connections to a terror group. Let's explain over at The Wall. Now, it all revolves around Autism and HSS program. That is Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services. Now, this was created to help seniors, addicts, and others find housing. But the criteria to enter this program was incredibly loose and therefore easy to take advantage of. It's led to fraud and costs absolutely exploding. Just 5 years ago, in 2020, costs for this program were $2.6 million. 4 years later, by 2024, cost had been over $100 million, 104. Through the first 6 months of this year, costs are at $61 million, meaning if you double that over the entirety of the year, you're looking at $122 million. In 5 years, from $2 million to $122 million. Now, why? 6 people are accused of defrauding HSS, and they're members of the Somali community. But this just gets worse if we take a look at Minnesota's federally funded autism program. Now, several people, and this is an example, a woman in the Somali community, are co-conspirators, and they're accused of recruiting kids for autism therapy. They brought in families, had them convinced to get their kids diagnosed as autistic. In fact, these families ultimately ended up having various social services bid for their children, competing with the number, size of check that they would get. It didn't matter if the kids had autism. And what happened? Autism claims to Medicaid surged. In 2018, $3 million. By 2023, listen here, from $3 million to $400 million. Autism providers jumped from 41 to 328 in 5 years. Now, City Journal reports that the Somali fraud rings send a lot of money back to Somalia. 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. That totals $1.7 billion. That is more than the entire budget of the Somali government. Money being sent abroad, from abroad, back to Somalia. Where is that money going? Take a look at this. Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. So to bring this full circle, the Minnesota taxpayers are funneling money through fraudulent autism claims back to Somalia, where that money lands in the accounts of Al-Shabaab.
So not only are they unscrupulous enough to steal money allocated for hungry children, but they'll steal money allocated for children with mental disabilities. We are importing people into this country from places that absolutely despise us, who of our kindness, our generosity, our willingness to help, our social safety nets designed to protect people in need, and then scam, rob, and defraud them for everything they can. Because as Ilhan Omar stated, it doesn't matter that they live here. It doesn't matter that we make them citizens. They are Somalis, and the same cultural priorities and preferences that led to the destruction of Somalia are now leading to the destruction of Minnesota. But would you be surprised if I told you that this level of Somali corruption in Minnesota isn't a recent occurrence? Here is news footage from the early 2000s of Somali businesses in Minnesota being raided by the FBI for being money laundering fronts for Al-Qaeda.
At Cedar and Riverside, 2 businesses shut down, their assets seized, and a suspect hauled away. That suspect may be Garad Jama, the only Twin Cities individual targeted by customs agents in the raid. Jama's last known address, this apartment complex at 2100 Bloomington Avenue South in Minneapolis. A block away from the first raid, 2 more businesses raided and shut down. At both locations, a steady stream of Somali refugees hoping to wire money home to their families turned away.
Business is shut down right now.
And at both locations, boxes of material seized, including a safe and a filing cabinet. Customs agents believe all 4 businesses are involved in funneling money to Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist network.
It is not racist to take an honest look at the world and realize we are not the good guys in the eyes of every country or culture, and conclude from that objective fact that it's not in our best interest to import these people into our country by the hundreds of thousands, tell them assimilating is racist, encourage them to keep their same culture, and then be surprised when the same problems that occurred from where they fled from start occurring here. Also, pretentious liberals can pat themselves on the back and brag about how inclusive they are and that they're more tolerant and virtuous than everybody because they accept all cultures and customs no matter what, even the most vile and repugnant ones, even the ones whose ideologies are centered around the destruction of our way of life. A Somali immigrant was recently arrested for sexually assaulting a child, and his mosque subsequently sent a letter to the prosecutor begging for her leniency, her forgiveness, her understanding, stating the man didn't know what he was doing wrong because of cultural barriers and differences. Why are we importing people into our country who culturally don't understand that being a child predator is bad? Why are we tolerating this insane progressive social justice experiment with our country? They think the concept of bad people doesn't exist. Every person is just misunderstood, and if they get dropped in America, given infinite free welfare, while not changing the root cause of their flaws, which is the culture, they'll just miraculously turn into this upstanding citizen. But this latest fraud was so massive that Donald Trump hit his breaking point, signing an executive order ending all temporary protective status for Somalis in Minnesota.
President Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that he will terminate the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. In his post, he says the reason is, quote, Minnesota, under Governor Walz, is a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. I am, as the President of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status, TPS program, for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from. It's over, President DJT, end quote. Now, we have reached out to Governor Tim Walz for a comment, but have not heard back tonight. Somalia's protective status currently runs through March 2026. Now, tonight, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar responding to Trump's post on Twitter, saying, I am a citizen and so are majority of Somalis in America. Good luck celebrating a policy change that really doesn't have much impact on the Somalis you love to hate. We are here to stay.
The statement by Ilhan Omar reveals everything wrong with our immigration policy post-World War II. She is rubbing our nose in the fact that they are all citizens because of our wonderful birthright citizenship laws. And there is absolutely nothing we can do to stop their fraud, to stop their abuse of the welfare system, to stop them from electing not to work, having 5 kids, and then receiving $10,000 per month in government benefits, to stop their destruction of the United States from within because they're legally here. She is bragging that the Somali diaspora has successfully scammed the United States system because that is what the Somali culture celebrates, scamming and corruption. If you can see what their culture leads to when given their own nation, why would you expect it not to lead to the same thing if you put them all in a singular city in Minnesota? She's mocking us by saying you can't deport your way out of this problem. Take a look at what the Somali gangs did in Minnesota during the $300 million Feeding Our Future scam, and it really ties this entire thing together.
We have new details on a jury tampering scheme at the center of a major fraud case. Federal prosecutors indicted 5 people for their roles in offering a juror $120,000 for a not guilty verdict in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. The U.S. attorney says the group targeted juror 52 because she was the youngest juror and appeared to be the only juror of color. According to court documents, they dug up information on her family online and even put a GPS tracking device on her car to track her whereabouts. During their investigation, investigators uncovered a video of one of the defendants leaving a bag of money at the juror's home. You may recall the juror came forward with the bribe, and 5 of the 7 defendants were found guilty of fraud. They were convicted for stealing millions of dollars from the government meant to feed hungry kids during the pandemic.
Tracking people, witness tampering, bribery, bags of cash. The entire Somali community in Minnesota is one big crime racket. They use their businesses for fronts. They put politicians in place as cover. They create policies that funnel taxpayer money into the pockets of Somalis. They then turn around and send that money back to Somalia to fund Islamic terrorism against America. And even after all of this, here is the Minneapolis police chief apologizing to the Somali community if they feel singled out and targeted by all of these fraud investigations. Oh yeah, and he has a Somali translator. Take a look.
community hadda caruurteena inaan garab istaagno chiefkana waa u baahannahay annagana waa isku baahannahay
cashaan oo ka mid ah odayaasha community-ga Soomaaliyeed iyo waalidiinta magaaladan degan ilmana ku koriyay.
The Somali community here in Minneapolis has been welcoming and has shown love towards me, and I appreciate it. Over the last 3 years, we have been working together to try and address some of the real serious problems that we have in our community. We have to be honest at times with the problems that we're having in our community, and we need our community to help us fix those problems together because it's real and it's serious. At the same time, if people have taken anything that I have said out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize, and I'm sorry for that, because that's not my intention at all.
That was the police chief symbolically saying, this is your city. This is your state. We're sorry that the big bad federal government is coming in here and disrupting your fraud schemes. Our liberal white guilt precludes us to accept your massive fraud of taxpayer services intended to help children. And we're sorry that the bad racist federal government is singling you out and holding you accountable. And he's forced to have a translator because how dare you expect people in America to speak English? This is their city, and the police chief is at fault for not knowing their language. They believe the burden of assimilation is on Americans to integrate into their way of life, not the other way around. They're forced to perpetuate this delusion because to do otherwise would be to admit that their ideology that there aren't good cultures and bad cultures, but all cultures are different and equally as special, is flawed and wrong, and they would no longer to be able to pat themselves on the back for being the kind of person who believes no human being is illegal on stolen land. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below.
Yeah. Okay. Right. He said a lot. I know that was a long video. But Dr. C, thank you so much for joining us this morning and reposting the stream. And Uncle Coldwater says, who was the president of the United States during this raid on these Somalians? Because they should have stopped it and deported them when we wouldn't be dealing with it again Now, I know that Bush Sr. brought them over. So that was in the 90s. These investigations and raids started happening, it had to be in 2024 because we're just now in 2025, right? So I think the fraud because of COVID, right? Because these things were done during the COVID years. So this was done under Biden, right? But now, because there is a new administration in place through auditing, they found these things, and you know what I'm saying? Now, the President Trump's new administration, they're not putting it in. A lot of the stuff is happening at the state level. They frauded. They use federal tax dollars for their fraud, but they did it at the state level. I know it's kind of weird, because a lot of states got COVID money, right, during that time. That's why I said it's kind of quasi between federal and state. And Uncle Coldwater says, I've always said that this is stupid to allow your enemies and those who consider your country to be an evil onto your American soil. So I believe there's some immigrants on the inside doing this. Okay, I don't disagree. Absolutely nobody invites their enemy into their house. Well, apparently we did. And simply and Soulful says, it's so delusional. It's crazy how they have come here and they're just like, well, we're Somalian. Oh, okay, well, you need to assimilate into the American way of life. No, we're Somalis here in America. It's like, no, you need to be Americans that are of Somali descent. See how that works? But no, you're Somalians here in America, then you need to leave. I'm just saying, because that's who you have allegiance and loyalty to. And that's what I was, wanting to get to point out. But no, see, this is where some of this stuff now gets wild.
$7.2 million fraud case in Hennepin County. The judge has thrown out the jury's guilty verdict. This is a case Lou Raguse has been following since the beginning. The judge's actions could make it harder to prosecute state fraud cases in the future. Lou?
Julie, it's extremely rare for a judge to reverse a jury's verdict in a criminal case. Jurors I spoke to today told me it was not a difficult decision to find Abdi Fattah Youssef guilty in a Medicaid billing scheme, and they're surprised by this development. At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Youssef, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Youssef and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Youssef, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who's not affiliated with this case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences.
That, in fact, there could have been other reasonable theories other than guilt in this case. That's what it comes down to.
Despite the ruling, even Judge West wrote that she is troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetuated at Promise Health.
I was stunned.
State Representative Kristen Robbins, chair of the House Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee, says she's now reviewing if any state laws need to be tightened.
We want to strengthen state law so that we can get prosecutions out of these cases, because clearly a jury thought he was guilty.
Jurors in the case can't believe the decision.
I am shocked. I'm shocked based off of all of the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the said evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberation took probably 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, I was beyond a reasonable doubt.
The attorney for Mr. Youssef, Ian Burrell, sent me a statement today that says, in part, Judge West's ruling affirms what we have maintained from the beginning, that our client, Mr. Youssef, was wrongfully accused and did not commit fraud or racketeering. The Attorney General's office filed an appeal this afternoon, so the Minnesota Court of Appeals will take a second look at this decision. Julie.
So, Lou, did Mr. Tamburino, did he have any kind of emotional reaction? And this is pretty stunning. This does not happen.
Yeah, he leaned towards the idea that this was kind of a one-off and that it would have a good chance at appeal. But the worry is that there's so many other cases just like it where somebody's in the exact same position as Mr. Youssef but is charged with fraud. And if the judge can determine that maybe they didn't know that the fraud was going on underneath them in the case, then other judges could throw it out just like this one.
All right. Do you know how quickly the Court of Appeals would take this up? Any idea?
Probably months.
All right. Thank you, Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they committed fraud, but the judge was like, well, maybe they didn't know the fraud was going on. They were committing the fraud. What do you mean they... I'm gonna calm down. Wusa, this is happening. Okay? And this is what I call legislating from the bench. Are you serious right now? These people willfully committed fraud, willingly abused the system. And they did it because they didn't think they were going to get caught. And then when they got caught, your further insult to injury is telling them, well, maybe they didn't know that it was going on in these other places, these other businesses that were coming to the same address and not providing the services. That was the fraud. They were taking the money. They were not rendering the services that they were getting the money for. And you decided as a judge, we're going to let them off, because how did they know how were they to know that the services weren't being rendered? Really? Okay. But that's what happened, y'all. And Hailey says, Ahmed, yeah. And Hailey says, thanking the universe for the age of Aquarius where everyone and everything will be exposed. Oh, it's all coming out, but it's the response that is just mind-boggling. So there was that. Now, there was also some SNAP fraud that was going on that I wanted to bring up briefly.
Investigates continues looking into one of Minnesota's most expensive programs. It's a Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP.
Tonight, investigative reporter Kirsten Swanson reveals the state hasn't used a new tool aimed at cutting off the flow of taxpayer dollars at the first signs of fraud. Kirsten?
Kevin and Lindsay, by the numbers, the SNAP program in Minnesota is massive. Close to 440,000 recipients rely on it. And in the past year, the state gave out nearly $875 million. But when people try to take advantage of the system, we wanted to know what the state is doing to stop them.
Your department has said that fraud in SNAP is incredibly rare. Can you give us some context there to help us understand what that means?
Sure.
Tiki Brown is commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Children, Youth, and Families.
Less than 1% of all participants are found to have committed an intentional program violation.
Data provided by DCYF 25 Investigates shows that from July 2024 through June 2025, the state completed nearly 8,000 investigations into potential fraud. They found fraud in 555 of those cases.
Is that system working?
It is absolutely working. It is absolutely working. We have the exact right protocols in place to ensure that if people knowingly provide false information, we have the ability to contact them and to collect information from them and to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Part of that process, Brown says, is getting the money back. And this year, the legislature added a powerful tool to help. A new state law allows state agencies to withhold payments to a program participant for up to 60 days if they find evidence of fraud.
DHS says it has now cut off payments to 11 providers.
It's already being used in other safety net programs, but 5 Investigates found SNAP isn't one of them.
At what point in that investigative process are the benefits stopped?
I believe it's once prosecution has occurred.
Days after this interview, DCYF confirmed it is not currently using that new authority. Instead, the department relies on a state statute that disqualifies an individual from receiving SNAP payments only after they're found to be guilty of wrongfully obtaining assistance. That same law also requires the state to claw back any money that's fraudulently obtained. Brown says they go as far as working with the IRS to get that done. From mid-2024 to mid-2025, DCYF says the state recouped about $7.3 million in what it describes, guys, as overpayments.
So last night in your reporting, you mentioned it takes 3 instances for somebody to be disqualified from the SNAP program. Any idea how many people that is?
Right, permanently disqualified
Right.
is the way that they say it. So we did ask the department that question earlier today. A spokesperson says their data team is still working to compile that information. As soon as we have it, we'll of course update the story online at KSTP.com.
Okay. Kirsten Swanson from 5 Investigates. Now, if you have concerns about weight,
Yeah, but it's just crazy how it's always Minnesota. I won't say always because there's fraud happening everywhere, right? But they're pretty much the spotlight is on them because the amount of fraud, not just with the SNAP program at the state level, but with these other programs like Feeding Our Future, and then this $7.2 million scam for providing the services that never got provided for. So it's really simple. It's almost like, okay, did you receive any services? And if they put down a fraudulent name or place and the people say, no, we never got those services, hello, it's real simple to prove. They said they were going to provide a service that they took money for to provide the services. They never provided the services, but this judge let them off. So Spud says, check that judge. They might have been paid off, right? And I actually did check it. So I bet you I got some fire ahead. Wait, so I bet you got some fire ahead. Well, I'm hoping to. But here's the thing. This is what I did check on that judge because that was my same thinking, right? Did this judge get paid off by the Somali community because sometimes that can happen, right? So I ran a check through Grok and I said, based on available public records and recent news coverage, right? The judge, Sarah S. West of the Fourth Judicial District Court, she was appointed in 2018 and then elected in 2020 with her current term expiring in 2027, right? So her background, she got her bachelor's degree at the University of Minnesota. She got her JD from William Mitchell College of Law, which is okay. So her community and professional involvement, she's a board member of the community bar, vice president and president-elect of Hepburn County Bar Foundation, and former member of the Grant Review Committee. She currently presides over treatment courts in Hepburn County, focusing on issues like substance abuse and mental health. Now, when you do get people in these spaces of substance abuse and mental health, and they have to deal with fraud, they are a lot more sympathetic. And this is just my opinion. And the reason why I say that is if you think about the gentleman that he stabbed that person on the train, the mother was like, you need to put him in a facility where he can't get out. And he was sent to a very low security facility, right? And the mother was like, no, you need to put him in a high risk facility. Well, the judge was like, oh no, we're going to put him in a low risk, facility and he should be fine. Well, he turned around and killed that woman. So what I'm saying is when you get judges that have any connection to substance abuse, mental abuse, they tend to be a lot more lenient is what I'm trying to get at. And it's just a track record with them. It is what it is. You can go to any case and just find it. So there are no public documented ties between Judge West and Minnesota's Somali community. Her biography, judicial directory listing, and professional affiliations show no involvement in Somali cultural organization, advocacy groups, religious institutions, or related community initiatives. Searches for news articles, social media discussions, and official records related to the case yield only speculation from critics, right? Let's see. Conservative commentators suggesting her ruling was influenced by DEI concerns or sympathy for the defendant due to his Somali background, but no evidence or factual claims of personal, family, professional, or financial connections. Okay. So basically, no, she didn't have any ties. Now, the ruling itself overturning a jury's guilty verdict on grounds of insufficient direct evidence leaking Youssef to the fraud has drawn significant backlash, with some attributing it to political or cultural biases in Hepburn County, a heavily Democratic area with a large Somali American population. Now, that is very isolated, but that could be the reason, right? However, West explicitly stated in her order that she was troubled by the fraud. Okay, so she realizes the fraud, right? At the Youssef's company, Promise Health Services, and emphasized legal standards around circumstantial evidence rather than community sympathies. The Minnesota Attorney General's office has appealed the acquittal, which is allowable in the context since it overrides a jury verdict. If new details emerge during the appeal, they could provide further context, but as of now, nothing substantiates ties, right? Because it's like you're wondering, like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah, it's very crazy. And OnlyFacts, thank you so much for joining us and reposting the stream. And Spud says, that is a troll. Do not read any of their comments. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Spud. You're so sweet. And Open Your Eyes says, same usual suspects. Yeah, it's very interesting because the jury, it only took them a few hours to come to the realization. It's like with the evidence that they were presented, and they weren't using any biases. They weren't like, oh, this person's Somali, we're going to find him guilty. No, it was just based on the factual evidence. There, she already said that she was troubled by the fraud, but she went and overturned the jury's verdict. So what's going on? It was just really weird. So I said, can you give me a brief outline of the case and why the jury found the defendant guilty? Okay. So the background we got of the case. So the allegations were Youssef and his company defrauded the Medicaid program at a 7.2 million over a 4-year period from 2018 to 2022 by billing for non-existent or unprovided home health aid services. So they either made up people that they didn't service, or they just didn't service people at all, right? And funds were funneled through a sham nonprofit entity, okay, supporting a lavish lifestyle. So they were paying a nonprofit agency that didn't do any, or not for profit, that didn't do any of the work, but then they took that money through the nonprofit and just spent it. Just saying. There's 12 felony counts, including theft by swindle and healthcare fraud. So the fraud is right there. And the judge is like, oh no, we're just going to overturn it. What? It's crazy. Like this case is going to get a lot more attention. And Uncle Coolwater says, none of this corrupt activities happen without some inside help from somebody sitting in a seat of decision. Time to drain the swamp and get all these unethical individuals out of our government. But this is just a lower level judge. She's literally a municipal judge. This is all state situation. Even though they're federal dollars, with COVID, they were like, okay, every state were like, okay, we have an issue going on in this state. And so they were like, okay, we'll send federal dollars over here to help in your state. And so through the state HHS program, or this the Minnesota Medicaid program, they were like, we'll provide services as a small group. Does that make sense? So then this small group takes that money and then they committed fraud. I'm like, what? Yeah, but that's what they did. So the trial and the verdict, jury verdict, so prosecution evidence, testimonies from former employees, right? Billing records showing inflated claims, right? Services billed without documentation or delivery. So they were billing Medicaid saying, hey, we're doing this, but there was nothing on the back end. It's just a paperwork thing. They were like, they're never going to check it. They're never going to audit it. And it's like, yeah, they are. So financial audits revealing suspicious transfers and lifestyle inconsistencies, e.g., 1 million in personal expenses. Why would you have $1 million in personal expenses for anything? Right? Y'all don't dress that well. You really don't do lots of things. So Nikes and all these other things, I'm like, were you buying this stuff and then reselling it? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm like, I haven't seen pictures of these people, so I don't know what they look like behind all of this. But yeah, we don't know about the houses and cars. And yeah, so it's very interesting. So the scheme exploded, lacks oversight in the Medicaid reimbursements for culturally specific care. Oh, and that's how they exploited. Okay, gotcha. The scheme and what they did, they exploited the lax oversight of Medicaid reimbursements for culturally specific care. So maybe they were like, well, we're Somalis and we're dealing with other Somali people, right? And that's how they were able to get the monies that they did, saying that they were going to provide these services. That never happened, right? So why the jury found them guilty after a 2-week trial. So the trial only lasted 2 weeks. The jury convicted Youssef on all counts in under 2 hours, right? Describing the evidence as obvious fraud with clear patterns of billing irregularities and personal enrichment. Jurors emphasized the undeniable paper trail and witness accounts linking the fraud directly to company operations under Youssef's control. So they were like, okay, 2 weeks in 2 hours, they found this person guilty. And then the judge comes in and overturns it. It's crazy. So in November 2025, Judge West overturned the verdict via judgment of acquittal, citing insufficient direct evidence tying Youssef personally to falsified claims, relying on circumstantial evidence. Huh? So okay. This is the judge, y'all. So the state appealed, calling the ruling troubling given the fraud's scale. So the judge came back and said that there was insufficient direct evidence tying Youssef personally to falsified claims. The jury said Youssef was guilty on all counts in under 2 hours, describing the evidence as obvious fraud. How is it obvious fraud? And she's saying insufficient direct evidence. I'm just saying this is how it fell out, y'all. But at least they're going to acquit. The AG is not giving this up. They're acquitting this. So I said, can you list some of the donors to her campaign? So she had like previous bosses that donated to her campaign, but specific donors, you have to dig a little bit more. So they didn't give me details, but like local firms and attorneys, a place, again, colleagues, friends and families of hers. I wasn't able to find any ties because, of course, I was like trying to find a tie to the Somali community. Like, this is weird. But there's no Somali community specific donors are noted in available summaries, aligning with West's lack of documented ties. So nobody in Somali community, basically. But that's what I was trying to find, Spud. Because trust me, that was my antennas went up completely. And Uncle Coolwater says, anyone seeking to run for government positions, federal, local, and state qualifications should be based on what country they have come from and whether or not America is a conflict with that country will determine if you qualify to even be a candidate. If there is a conflict with America in the home country of the individual, you absolutely do not get to be a part of America's government on any level. No judges, no police, no nothing. Oh, wow. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, because it becomes an issue of loyalty, right? Because I think there's like a Somali sheriff, and I had saved it in my bookmark, and I was just like, wow, it just looked really crazy. He was just talking to Somalis, like, yeah, Somalis, we're going to keep Somalis safe first, and this and that. And I was like, bro, you're a sheriff. You're supposed to protect the state. Like, that's your job, is the state, not one particular community. Are you serious right now? I might have to take a break and come back with you guys with that video. But yeah, it was very much a trip. So Yeah. Now, the last one I'm gonna play for you guys. This is about the individual. He raped a young girl and 12-year-old, and this is a Somali individual. Raped a young girl, found guilty, everything. Well, the people in the community wrote the judge and saying, well, it's a cultural thing and he didn't know any better. And the judge actually gave him a more lenient sentence. I'm not kidding. And this was mentioned in the video that Brandon did, but I'm just saying, I want to play Hernandez, her take on it, just so you guys can see the mindset in Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis, when it comes to these individuals that are Somali. It's really crazy to me.
Is standing in front of the Al Hassan Islamic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I'm standing here because this mosque has made national headlines after they penned a letter of community support for a Somali immigrant who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old. Now, back in 2024, this perpetrator was charged after abducting a 12-year-old from her backyard, forcing her into his vehicle, and then sexually assaulting her. He has since been convicted of first-degree criminal sexual assault. Now, after being convicted, his family members were sending letters to the judge to ask the judge to consider his character when making that sentencing. And one of those letters came from the Al Hassan Islamic Center. It was actually signed by their executive director, stating that he had to face cultural differences and the challenges of taking on a new culture. They also framed him as a family-oriented man who sends his money oftentimes back to his family members in Somalia. The judge actually gave him the lightest sentencing possible. He is only going to be serving 8 years in jail for this crime. He was sentenced to 12 years, but those last 4 years are going to be spent out of jail and on probation. By the way, going back to that point about the challenges of a different culture, this perpetrator has been in the United States of America since 2006. So he's been in the United States for 19 years. He was born in Somalia, but he has been here for almost 2 decades at this point. However, the culture coming into play when it comes to, as the Islamic Center put it, this situation, the situation, of course, being him sexually assaulting and abducting a 12-year-old girl. So just wanted to give you guys an idea of some of these stories, some of the cultural impact happening here in Minnesota as it relates to the Somali community.
Yeah. So it's happening in various cases. That's where I'm coming from. So it wasn't just this, fraudulent case. This is also happening in a rape case where they're petitioning the judges and the judges are like, oh, okay, well, if it's a cultural thing, well, maybe what? And Hernandez, she even said it. She was like, this person has been in the United States for 19 years. Didn't just get here, didn't get fresh out, and there's still no excuse, even fresh in. What are you doing? We're not going to assimilate to you. And I think that's the demand we need to have as the American public. Guess what? We do not have to allow you to be here on our soil. Just because you think you're American, you're not. You are a Somali here in America. And that's what you stand on. And that's who you are. And we need to all make a demand to the White House and petition. You need to get these people up off the soil. They are nothing but a stain here on the country. Ilhan Omar, she wants to say, oh, we're the fabric of America. No, you're not. And whatever fabric that is, we need it up off the soil because you're not helping the American public. You're a leech on America, period. That's what it is. And Uncle Coolwater says, but that doesn't mean that Somalians don't donate. Absolutely. And it may have gone through a different name or something. Yes. So what I had pulled up donation wise, just so you guys know, if I wanted to know further, like literally like everybody, almost like the FEC kind of report, I could request it, right, through Minneapolis, through their data. This was just a few of the things that Grok was able to pull in general. So obviously, this is to me, It's very obvious this person has ties to the Somali community and they are very sympathetic towards this community. But again, this Islamic Center sent a letter to the judge telling the judge, hey, this is cultural and this person doesn't really understand that they shouldn't do this. You don't understand that you shouldn't rape a 12-year-old child? What is wrong with people and abduct them from their that's not if that's a cultural thing, then all y'all got to go. And I demand it. You're not like us. You're dangerous to the United States and you need to get up off the soil. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a conflict between countries. You should not be in a position of power on level in America. Exactly. Dual allegiance is a dangerous position for America's. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Uncle Coolwater also says, this is why I said ethnicity or country, right? That relocates to America should not have the American tag on their ethnicity, right? You are just visiting and working in America, but you are not Americans, right? Like people like to say, I'm a Jamaican American and this American. It's like, no, you're either American or you're not. Because when you decided to become an American for whatever country you're coming from, you broke ties with the allegiance to that country. Now, you might be ethnically, you might have your ethnicity, right? If you're Chinese, but if you're an American, you're supposed to be an American here. Your ethnicity is Chinese. But does that make you a Chinese American or does that make you an American that's just so happens to be Chinese? And it should be the latter. You're an American that just so happens to be Chinese, but your allegiance is here to America. Your allegiance isn't to China. And that's where we really need to, send that, force that home and understanding home on people. And I've got a guest to join me here. She's joined me here before, Miss Patty Cakes. So let me bring her up to the stage. Hey, Patty Cakes, how you doing?
Hey, can you hear me good?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First off, on the eve of Thanksgiving, I am getting ready to start cooking.
Right?
I know everybody's,
Okay.
heading and traveling and all that good stuff. I I think that's horrible. Ugh, I can't even explain how horrible that is for somebody to think that that's okay. And I think, one thing that the government has not tackled is when it comes to what do we do when you have refugees that come over and you don't tell them, explain to them about what happens in this country and the things that they do. And I think that's a problem, right? We never
Yeah.
have any of those conversations. We just say, okay, you're a refugee. Here's money. Here's food. Here's a place to stay. Here's all this stuff. We give them that. We don't ever,
Mhm.
go through any type of anything to actually let them know what is it acceptable. I guess that's a better way of saying
Right.
it. What's
Right.
acceptable here in this country?
Right, because and I hear you because when people want to apply for citizenship, there's a pathway, right? And they have to learn about the Constitution and they have to learn all these things to actually be an American. But when it comes to people that are asylum seekers, people coming over here illegally, and even refugees, there's no vetting,
Right.
right? They just get to
Right.
come over. They're just here and we're just dealing with it. And it's crazy.
Right. And so, and the last thing I'm going to say is today on the Wake Up Call show, we're going to be discussing a call to action for the Black American New Yorkers. There is a disaggregation bill. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to lean into the Trump and Maldani
Mhm.
bromance, I guess you could say.
Well,
you know,
it's business. And that's what people need to remember in politics. This is business. This is not about your feelings. Now,
right.
if you want to crash out all day long, that's great. But at the end of the day, are you done? or get up off the floor having your tantrum. Now we got to take care of business.
Right, right. Yeah, at the end of the day, and I hope anyone that's listening that does live in New York State, this will pertain to you. Um, we definitely want to get the word out that it's been even Maldani filled out his application to live somewhere, and he put African American on there. So
Right.
we're gonna try to break some of those things down in the conversation, and we invite anyone to come and hang out with us just for a little while, because I know everybody's traveling and cooking
Right.
and all that good
Getting it
stuff.
in.
Yeah, so thank you so much, founder, and everybody out there. Y'all have a blacktastic day.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks for joining us here on the show. Okay. Yeah. So definitely check out Patty Cakes and her show coming up. Let's see. I'm just making sure I don't have any other comments, but yeah, it's very sad what is going on. And I was trying to find this. Basically, with oh, that's what it was. And I only touched on it yesterday with because I know a lot of people, with Ilhan Omar, she's like, I can't be deported. She thinks she's above it. I'm like, ma'am, your citizenship can be revoked. The people that would have a harder time being deported from the country would be someone like myself, who's an actual American citizen of this country, born citizen, where my parents and my parents' parents and all the way back through, like going through pre 1776, we were here on the soil. Okay. You have a harder time deporting someone like myself as opposed to someone like yourself who, as a refugee, were brought here with your parents at the age of 8. And then in the 2000s is when you actually applied for citizenship to become an American citizen. Okay. So there is a difference between naturalization and born citizenship. And your arrogance precedes you, and it will be your downfall. Because guess what? If you are seen as a threat to this country, you can't be removed. You can't be deported. Like, I don't want you to think you're above it, baby. We can demand your removal. And that's exactly what I want the American people to do and continue to do, to petition. Not that you just get removed from Congress, but you and everybody that is of Somali descent that came here in the 90s and with their children that they have had here on this soil, y'all got to go. You do not have any American values. You do not respect America, and you need to leave. And you really think that you can't be removed? We got something for you. So let me share this briefly, and then we're going to get up out of here. Because I said, are there any cases in the United States history where naturalized citizens were removed? Yes, there are multiple historical instances in U.S. history where naturalized citizens, i.e., people who had already been granted U.S. citizenship through naturalization, were stripped of their citizenship, denaturalized, and in many cases, subsequently deported. Below are significant camp, and this is the one that I'm focusing on. So this was a mass denaturalization campaigns in the 1907 to 1940s, and the legal basis, the Naturalization Act of 1906, and later the 1940 Nationality Act allowed the government to cancel naturalization certificates obtained by fraud, or if the person was deemed to have shown lack of attachment to the Constitution. It's a very broad standard, but we can make that case for these people that are here Somali because they keep saying, well, it's our culture. But that's not the culture in the United States to rape and apprehend little girls. Okay, well, that's our culture. Well, it's not our culture to defraud the United States. Because you guys made everything Somali specific. You made this your ethnicity specific things that you were doing with this fraud. Feeding our future? Mm-hmm. Feeding hungry children, right? Okay. $250 million. Got it. Then with the autism situation, it was still, you were doing it in the Somali community. And the providers went up from 41 to over 300 providers. And that's another claim of fraud because those children are not autistic. But you said we need something for our community. This is the stuff culturally that's not in alignment with the United States, and you need to get up off the soil. And Uncle Kowart says, are you sending out links for the people to come on stage with you? I was doing it for the ladies, but you can use the link that I had already sent you, Uncle Coolwater. You should have it. I know you might have to go back in your you might have to go back in your text messages, but from when you came on for Mighty Men Thursday, the same link will work if you want to come on stage, or I will try to send it to you during my rant, or maybe I'll have to play a commercial to do it. But you guys can see where I'm coming from with this. So Emma Goldman, she was an anarchist activist naturalized through marriage, was denaturalized in 1919 and deported to Russia along with hundreds of other radicals during the first Red Scare, Palmer raids. So we can get these people up off the soil. This is not something that is new. This isn't something that can't be done. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm saying. Okay. And then it says thousands of naturalized citizens of German, Italian, and Japanese ancestry had citizenship revocation proceedings initiated during World War I and World War II on suspicion of disloyalty. Come on now. Come on. In the 1920s and 30s, many Mexican Americans, naturalized citizens, especially in the Southwest, were targeted during repatriation drives. Some had their citizenship certificates canceled on technicalities, alleged fraudulent naturalization, and were deported in the Mexican repatriation campaign of 1929 to 1936. So it's not like we can't get people removed from this country. So I need you to stop being so arrogant, Miss Omar, Miss Somali first, because you're not going to play this game with us. We're not going to play the game, ma'am. Oh, you're so sweet. Uncle Coolwater was laughing. He was like, I forgot it was Wednesday. Yep, it's the latest day. So I wanted to post this. So you can comment the White House on this. The number is 202-456-1111, or you can email comments to the White House at comments@whitehouse.gov. And let's just start making this trend where we're either calling and saying, we demand all Somalis be removed from the United States. They are not assimilating and they are a danger to our way of life. And they are. With the fraud that they've committed just in the state of Minnesota alone. What about those individuals that needed those resources for autism, that needed those resources for housing? And they are blatantly, fraudulently doing this. That judge that overturned that fraud where they misused $7.2 million that was obvious fraud, she needs to be disbarred. She does. You need to be removed. Obviously, you don't know the law because you said, well, there was something there, but was it intention? Was there intent? Yes. They went and spent the money. It wasn't like they went and put the money in a bank account somewhere. They went and spent it. What is wrong with you? And they continued to do it for years. They did it for 4 years, not 6 months, 4 years. That is intent. Criminal intent, and it keeps going back to this criminal behavior. And if they're sending any of the remittances to terrorist activity, to fund terrorist activity, they got to go. They got to go. Everybody's got to go. And I don't want to hear that birthright citizenship stuff. Nah, you need to leave. You're a danger to America. And we need to petition the White House. Again, call the White House at 202-456-1111 or email comments at whitehouse.gov. And this needs to be something that we need to just make a standard. Okay? Whenever we see something going wrong, call the White House and email them. Say, enough. Enough is enough. The American people, we suffered enough. Okay? Going through COVID, you got the ACA off the chain with, deductibles, and people can barely afford health care. People can't buy homes anymore. The job market's, running wild. And we got people here that we said, come here out of the kindness of our house that are robbing from us. Enough. Enough. Close $250 million. Do you know how life-changing that could have been for people that needed it? And you're abusing the system and then scoffing in our faces like, whatever. I want Ilhan Omar removed from Congress, denaturalized, and deported. That's it. In that order. I want her off the soil since she wants to be a Somali girl and raise her kids and her grandkids in Somalia. Bye. Don't let the door hit you. And I will be grateful because we will be a better country with you not here. And I'm saying that 100%. We will be better off without you, without Talib. You too? Oh, y'all can go. And you can send her right back to Pakistan. You too. I want you removed from Congress, denaturalized, and deported. And your family members with you. But with the Somali community, there's about 150,000 of y'all. Oh, all y'all can get up off the soil. If we can get 500,000 people removed in a year, we can remove y'all with your children. And they need to be stripped of their citizenship as well. Don't come back here. You need to go back to Somalia and you need to stay there forever. No vacations. We don't want to see you. I don't even want to see you as dignitaries. We can meet somewhere over there. We can meet in Egypt. We can meet somewhere over in the Middle East. But you don't get to come back over here anymore. But that's where I'm at on it. So thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News for Women in Wellness Wednesday, and also for, pre-Thanksgiving Day. We will be off the air for Thursday and Friday, but we will be back on Monday for the Monday recap. Okay. And definitely, if anybody follows Patty Cakes, check her out. She said that they're going to be holding a space. I'm not sure what time it is, but they're going to be holding a space on X for the program that she has. I think it's like her and Lovely, and I'm not sure who else is involved there. I haven't actually checked out the space yet because I don't stay online all day. I have other things that I do offline. But with that, I just want to thank everybody for a wonderful year, right? The things I'm grateful for is to be here with you guys every day, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Just grateful for life and my kids, my husband, my grandson. I got to hang out with him on Monday for my birthday. And just remember, sometimes people get the holiday blues. So if you see somebody that might not be doing too well, make sure you give them an extra smile and a hug. Okay. So, Cajun Lady, she sent her red, white, and blue hearts. Good morning, Cajun Lady. So with that, we're going to end the stream. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you on Monday.